Everyone, this is the conference Identify Verification and Food Traceability, Identity-Related Opportunities Regarding Identification, Exposure, and Notification. We have here Dr. Rosita Dara, yes, and Johnny Brennan with us today. So in order to listen to this conference, you are going to need your headphones and this particular thing. There are some at the table in the back, and there will be a time at the end for some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you with us for this conversation today. I think it's lovely that we're going to be talking about food and food traceability, and we're on the green stage, so I think this is a nice connection for our talk today. I think it's a little bit of an interesting angle to bring food traceability into the context of cybersecurity, and then intersecting this with digital identity, digital trust, and the capabilities within that space. So we'll share a little bit of the background with you as to how these pieces fit together, the relevance for cybersecurity and food safety. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the research that is happening and forward-looking where we see digital identity providing opportunities and capabilities within the food traceability space. So to get us started and to frame our conversation, it's a real pleasure to have Dr. Rosita Dara with us. Rosita, we've done work in the past through the DIAC to, Rosita has really brought this topic to us, food traceability and what it means with digital identity. So we've really had the opportunity to listen and to learn from her and her studies and her ecosystem, and to intersect that with the digital identity focused ecosystem. So it's been a pleasure to learn, and we can share more information about what you see today following this talk. So maybe, Rosita, would you like to get us started? Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you very much, Joni, for your kind introduction. Right now, I just want to give a brief overview of the need for digital ID and secure platforms for food security. It's a short presentation, then we will have our panel. So my name is Rosita Dara. I'm a faculty at the School of Computer Science, University of Guelph. My research is an intersection of AI, cybersecurity. For one of the applications, I apply it to food security, to food in general. So it's not a surprise to just know that similar to many other sectors, technology is being used in agriculture, from crop production, fertilizers, irrigation, to animal production, animal health, animal welfare, and to greenhouses. You know, everywhere we have robots, we have sensors, we have all sorts of technologies, AI, blockchain, various platforms, cloud. It's being used everywhere, and of course, this is throughout the supply chain, the food supply chain, from the point that seeds are obtained and then the plants are produced or animals are raised, all the way through the supply chain until retailers and consumers. Constantly data is being collected. So obviously one of the recent technologies that has gained quite a bit of an attention is technologies that are used for traceability. Traceability that, the origin of food can be validated, fraud can be detected, and consumers can be more confident where their food comes from. All sorts of, as I mentioned, technologies are used throughout all these stages of food production, processing, packaging, transfer, and then to the point that it becomes available to the consumer. So the range of these technologies are quite broad, from robotics that is used in milking. To a great extent, they are autonomous. Drones constantly, collecting data from farms and monitoring plant growth and soil condition. a very large number of sensors are being obtained by farmers or different stakeholders to IoT devices tracking packages and tracking temperature in the trucks. And, I can give many examples, IoT sensors as well. So obviously this data needs to be pre-processed and processed, and decision needs to be made, or autonomy has to be brought to these technologies. This is done through artificial intelligence. Then we need platforms to manage all of that data. Cloud platforms are quite popular in food technology, blockchain, as you can imagine. When it comes to traceability, it has had already a major impact, and it will continue to impact such applications. And there are many smart vehicle tractors and many other devices that are being used at the farms. So basically, and the expectation, especially after COVID, when we realize how vulnerable our food system is, for example, after COVID, it was very hard for many of these organizations to find labor because nobody was willing to work at the farms or production houses to help package or process food. There is quite a bit of a pressure to use more automation in food supply chain. So the use of technology is only going to grow. And again, this is similar to many other sectors. So thinking about the digital ecosystem of food, obviously we need the same technologies as we need in other sectors. We need platforms that are secure. We need interoperability from legal to data to technology and operation. One of the challenges of food is very large number of actors that exist, and and they have to collaborate with each other to make to give access to kind of growing population. So interoperability is very important for this sector as well. So obviously compliance with government regulation, compliance with existing and kind of constantly changing regulations globally, expectation of the consumers for high quality food, that's also putting pressure on the system, high price. It's all of those are putting pressure on this digital ecosystem to be optimized, to be more responsible, to be more reliable. So by 2050, it used to be 9 billion, now they say it's 10 billion. We have to feed 10 billion population. So we want to produce more with less. Water waste, we want to bring it down, and many other ways that it's currently in the ecosystem we want to reduce. So all these technologies are needed, but right now, the environment, so these are the things that we are looking for. But something that is, there are few issues that is putting the system at risk. And one of them that, as you can imagine, and it's related to this conference, is cybersecurity. So if you think food system cannot be impacted by cybersecurity, it doesn't make sense. Obviously, we have all these technologies. So definitely it will put global food supply chain and food security at risk. So there have been few very famous incidents that had impacted. So it has been all over the news. It's food system is one of the 16 important infrastructures in almost all the countries globally. So that has been recognized, the importance of a secure platform for food. So this has been identified. There have been few famous cases of cyber attacks on food system. One of the recent ones in 2021 was on one of the biggest meat plants in the world in US. The infrastructure, was attacked by Russians. And the impact was completely obvious on the entire market. And the price of the market, restaurants couldn't get the processed food they wanted, and the company had to pay $11 million and it was ransom. They had to pay in ransom to be able to free up their data. So cybersecurity is one of the issues, obviously interoperability and many other challenges that we need to address. But If we have the food supply chain at risk, many other aspects of our lives would be at risk. You know, food security, food safety, because we cannot measure anything, we cannot measure risk. Global market would be at risk. As you know, the global market around food is highly connected. So we have seen it with Ukraine and oil. You know, so if one region that is providing all the oil around the world is impacted, so we are all impacted. And so obviously human animal health, because again, we don't have access to data, we cannot measure and we cannot protect. So a quick look at how the data ecosystem looks like, so that I put that in the context of cybersecurity and digital ID. So every single second we are collecting something about our data. At the farms, they say by 2030, each farm, average farm, will generate 5 million data every minute or every second. I can't remember the exact number, but data gets collected. And then that's throughout the supply chain. So I have put some of the sample data over here. If you want to trace it, we need a specific type of technology. If we want to secure it, we need a specific type of technology. If we want to create an environment that we collect, all of that data is accessible, we need certain type of technology to enable that. So one of the areas, as Joni mentioned, we have discussed extensively with her support and her organization support, is digital ID. Because right now, digital ID in a food system is quite fragmented. So we need to standardize that. We need to agree. We need platforms to share it. We have to make it more interoperable. And you know the benefits of digital ID, especially in the context of food. First of all, it enables traceability, because you need to be uniquely identify every object and every data at every given point in the different stages of food supply chain. So we need secure transactions, you know, to secure it throughout the supply chain with many different actors that we have. Digital ID would enable that. Obviously, it enhances protection against cyber threat, because you know you can validate every transaction, access of data, every transaction, whenever it's needed. Fraud detection. Fraud is huge in food, you know, fish and honey and you know many other food products. And finally, it will help us improve food security. So with that, I'm not going to, so it's quite at early stages. There are many things that we need to do to at least establish digital ID, and from there to make sure that we are improving cybersecurity in the food, agri-food system. So with that, I'm going to stop here, and we have our other colleague who has joined us. And so thank you very much for listening to the introduction.
Thank you so much, Rosita, for helping to set the stage, set the table for us in this conversation about food and cybersecurity and digital identity. And just a small reminder for myself, I'm Joni Brennan, president of the Digital ID and Authentication Council of Canada. We are a nonprofit association. We have about 120 members who are all working together on ensuring that digital identity will be safe, secure, privacy enhancing, for Canadians. And so this is the kind of work that we get to do, working with amazing people such as who is on this panel. And keeping within our food and agriculture space, you may see that our panel is growing. So our panel has grown a bit. And so I want to take a moment to introduce you to Elise Legendre. Elise is Chief Data Officer for Agriculture and Agri-food Canada, a position, if your bio is correct, I think you've been in about almost for 20 years in Agri-food Canada, so amazing career. And so I would like to open up now the floor for conversation, and I'll start with you, Elise. Could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, what makes you passionate for this space, and why is this intersection of digital identity capabilities and agriculture and agri-food important for you?
Absolutely. Thank you. I'm assuming this is on and that you guys are hearing me. So I am Elise Legendre, Chief Data Officer for Agriculture and Agri-food Canada, as Joni said. I've been in the department for about 20 years now, but it's a fairly new role, the Chief Data Officer, both in AAFC and in general in the government of Canada. It's still a role that's being defined, and I think it speaks to the importance of those questions for our stakeholders in general, so the Canadian public for sure, But in the sector that my department serves, for those of you that just to give you a little bit of an idea, the agriculture and agri-food sector is an economic driver in Canada, no question. It generated close to $77 billion in revenue at the farm level last year. It covers 62.2 million hectares. That's 6% of the Canadian land. Canada is a big country. Agriculture is huge. And it's often perceived, the department is one of the oldest departments. It was founded in just after Confederation. So we've been around for a long time. We represent a very diversified sector. And one of the key factors of the success of the sector is its ability to be competitive and sustainable and respond to the needs of customer here and abroad. And we see with digital ID a very big opportunity to enhance a lot of the components that are going to help support the competitiveness of the sector and its ability to succeed both in-house and abroad. As Rosita was saying, I've had the privilege to see your presentation before, so even if I missed a little bit because I forgot the time it takes to find a parking spot in Montreal, I'm very sorry for being late. Like, there are some very significant challenges, and the trust is going to be a very important factor for the farmer to adopt new technologies and understand the benefits of them and understand the risks they are taking. But also for them, they're becoming very aware of their privacy and their information and the value of it. So how can we support them? And that's why I think AAFC is at the table here, not because we have a specific mandate on ID or cybersecurity or all of these things as per our mandate, but our mandate, our mission is to provide leadership and support the growth of the sector. So we see ourselves as a good partner and a good collaborator in that space. And we hope that we can both internally for us take that digital transformation, data transformation turn, I would say, but also support the sector in better understanding and taking advantage of these technologies and these advantages. In some cases, it's going to be a matter of survival, I think, in some countries, and for some of the trade, the ability to be able to instill trust within the sector and with the customer is going to reap benefits to everyone across the supply chain, and that speaks to, down the road, also food security and food sovereignty that you were referring to. So I see many, many angles for AFC to be involved, and I'm really happy to be here today with you, Joni and Rosita, and the work we've been doing for the past few months.
It's certainly an interesting perspective as well that you mentioned that farmers are becoming more aware of the value of their data, the data that they're generating, and the privacy around that space. I think that's a kind of an interesting parallel to just personal identity and people being more aware about their data as well. And so sometimes I think that when we look at the capabilities of digital identity, we can see areas where in fact they are moving forward, where maybe the privacy has been a little bit less of a concern. And I wanted to ask you, Rosita, could you share a little bit about what you see already happening within the space around food traceability, and how much is this out there already, and maybe it's use cases that can move forward, maybe with a little less concern around privacy?
Yep. So first of all, food traceability has been the center of attention for quite a long time. Even not just food per se, I would say animal traceability for many different reasons. There have been a few major, very successful case studies, especially supported by Walmart. One of the recent one was, they call it the largest food blockchain in the world, which was in collaboration with the Canadian company, DLT Lab, which is a blockchain company. So they have been able to establish that, and they have been able to trace. It doesn't go to the farm level. Really, it's on food safety, and they have been able to trace many trucks around Canada and abroad that move food around, and look at the quality of food, if they have delayed, in what condition they were kept, and those. So they were able to constantly monitor all of that for for all the trucks that they were kind of commissioned by Walmart in Canada and US. So it was huge. There was another one between Walmart and China on pork traceability. That one also was quite successful. Most of them are built around with blockchain, but there are a few other ones. For example, eggs are being traced constantly. I mean, that has been built into the system completely without blockchain. So there are a few successful cases. In terms of farmers, their privacy. So the idea of blockchain and having being able to secure it is huge. The farmers and privacy. Sometimes regulation mandates that farmers have to share. So basically, they follow that. In terms of so going back to that discussion, yes, traceability, it has been happening. It's a few successful cases that have been reported very recently. That's there. There is no standardization around digital ID for those traceability case studies. I don't think anybody has extensively studied and anybody even consider interoperability. For example, I mentioned IBM, Food Trust, and Walmart. They were the ones who were involved, and the DLT Lab. Nobody talks about interoperability and the need of being able to integrate the platform they have built with other systems. To me, that's a problem, because that would kind of creates power imbalance if there are only few organizations that control the platform, that control the data, and they can enable traceability. So I think with having digital ID that is standardized and interoperable, we can kind of manage that power imbalance when it comes to food and food traceability, because this food is important to all people, not to a small group of people. So that would be that. But in terms of privacy what I wanted to say is I think digital ID would be quite important to ensure some level of control, give some level of control back to the farmers if we are building our platforms with digital ID in a way that farmers would be able to have greater control. Because of the system, farmers can be identified, their data can be linked to the farmers and their farm in a kind of a more effective way. With new systems built with that farmer kind of centric, enabling farmers to have more power over their data, I think the privacy issue will, to some extent, the concerns would be to some extent addressed. But without the digital ID, without having appropriate platforms, right now everything is fragmented. It's hard for farmers to control their data. So so there were two things: one on traceability, the other one on privacy, which I think digital ID would be a great solution. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's definitely work to be done in terms of no single standard, no single technology, and maybe some different definitions also of what trust means. How are we verifying that information that goes into that system, which are two related. How is the data verified versus how is the data transmitted? So those are two interesting things to think about. I do want to spend some time and also really humanize or bring to society the more visibility on who are the shareholders, who are the different kinds of organizations, who are the interested parties from your work, Elise. When we're having these conversations and trying to bring together interested parties to work with them on what problems they're trying to solve and how we can help them and support them, who are some of those examples of those interested parties that you work with?
Well, clearly for us, there's the farming community through industry association. Oftentimes, they have very active representation. They tend to be very broken down by. Oftentimes, we would be looking at sector-by-sector approaches. As Rosita was saying, traceability is not a new concept in agriculture. I think it's been around for a very long time. I think everybody is agreeing with the virtue and with the objective of traceability, but we see some benefit in exploring the technology and how it could help leverage some of these things. I think we cannot lose sight of the Canadian Food Inspection Agency as well. We have a mandate. It's not my department, but it's a sister department. We do have mandate for food security, traceability, and export. So there's a lot of players around the table. Consumer have so much more to say and so much more needs for information, and I think greenwashing and all those things. I see a distinct advantage to digital ID and traceability, digitizing traceability, to provide that, like, that source, the ground source of truth for some of those claims. So, and I think it goes beyond agriculture. I think there is a role for Standard Canada, for other organizations to come together. I said it in my first intervention, I'm going to say it again, this is team sport. We're going to have to come together around the table and find ways to navigate this together to support the growth and the sustainability of the sector, and make sure that we continue to be well positioned to grow that sector and to provide stability for our Canadians as well.
Yeah, agree with all of that. And I know these conversations tend to move very fast. So we've moved through some material, we've given some background and some foundation, and also a look into the types of organizations and people who would be concerned about these topics. So I do want to move to the portion. I always like to make sure that we try to have some actionable advice for the people who have joined us today, or maybe for the people who are joining us through the videos to follow. So maybe I'll stay with you, Elise, and then go to Rosita. Do you have some, for the people who are watching and listening, what are some things that they can think about and take forward in the next week, month, 6 months around this topic? How can they get involved?
Well, I think there's many ways to get involved. I think think about agriculture when you're, it seems to be far away from tech and all of these things, but there's so many opportunities. There's a network of smart farm across the country, for example. There's a lot of opportunity to contribute that way and learn more about the sector. There's going to be other opportunity, I'm sure, in special interest group or the places where we're looking for creativity and talent and folks to join in and help us address these challenges together.
Great advice, Rosita.
Yep. So as Ellie said, food is absolutely critical to our well-being and to a healthy society. So it's extremely important. As I mentioned, the use of technology is growing, and it is a very complex sector with many actors involved. So the technology will have impact on many aspects of all these different stakeholders, from social aspect to the legal aspect to it's completely transforming this sector. So what is important to be done, and technology, similar to, I mean, all technologies, it has benefits and it has many unknown, maybe issues that may be raised, and we need to start addressing them right now. So it's very critical for all the stakeholders, from government, researchers, nonprofit organizations, tech providers. We all need to sit down and decide what is needed in this sector, how we can be more productive, how we can make sure security of food security in the future. You know, we don't want to be impacted by every unknown event such as COVID or war constantly, and it has impact on the price of food and quality of food and all of that. So we want to brainstorm together in terms of what's needed, what are the harms and how we can protect it, what policies do we need, what new technologies do we need, which I think, in my opinion, is the easiest one, how we can address social challenges. Some people talk about power imbalance because only some groups have access to the data. They may be able to control the market, you know. So these are all the theories that we haven't seen, but many of the challenges that exist with digital data in other sectors could be even worse happening with the food, agri-food basically system. So it's important for us to start brainstorming now, try to find solutions that would be provide an opportunity for everybody who is involved in this sector to make this technology ecosystem beneficial for everybody, but at the same time secure healthy food and environment for our society.
Fantastic advice. It's truly been my honor to be a part of this panel of amazing leading women today, and to work with them and to learn from them about this space. I hadn't dreamed when I started in digital identity we would be into agriculture and food. So this is wonderfully exciting and pragmatic and impactful, because if we don't have safe food, we don't go forward. So so I appreciate all that you're doing. If you're very interested in this topic and you want to learn more, you can drop us an email at info@diac.ca, diacc.ca. We'd be happy to put you in touch with the right people as we develop more conversations in this space. And I think if you're present in person, I think our panelists may be around for a little bit, and so you may be able to chat with them, which would be wonderful. So I don't think we have any time for questions, but we're really thankful that you took the time out of your schedule or out of your day to be with us in person or to watch this on demand later. And we hope that you've gotten some food for thought. I apologize. Food for thought on the topic and how it intersects with cybersecurity. So thank you for taking your time and joining us today.
Merci beaucoup.